Welcome to Stonewatch. This is my open spoiler discussion for Star Wars The Book of Boba Fett Chapter 3. And if you haven't already, please smash the subscribe button and click on that bell so you can notify future videos. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And yes, after watching the third chapter of The Book of Boba Fett, I gotta say, it's okay. And you know what? I really don't want to be saying it's okay the third episode in a Star Wars live action show. You know what I'm saying? I mean, don't get me wrong. I do like this show, but I think it's kind of moving a little slow. And as of right now, I have to say that the second episode is my favorite one. You know what I'm saying? Out of the three that we've gotten so far. And I mean, I don't know, man. There was the things in this episode I like. It was setting up a lot of stuff, and I think we're going to see a lot more coming out of what we saw in this episode. Now, Robert Rodriguez comes in to direct his second episode of this series. And I got to say, I like the second one better. And that was directed by Steph Green. And I don't know who the hell she is, to be quite honest with you, but I liked her episode the most so far out of the three we've gotten. You know what I'm saying? Again, there's a lot in this episode that I like, and I can't wait to see more of and see if they really expand on that. But at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know. And the runtime was only 39 minutes before you minus out the credits and the previously before on type stuff. And after that, you're only left with like 34, 35 minutes worth of story time, which can be pretty cool. And they did put kind of a lot in here. But at the same time, I was just like, really? What the hell? One of the things in this episode I did like a lot, we got like a debriefing from 88, and we got the lowdown on what's been going on Tatooine for like the last 5 years. Because again, this show takes place 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. So, and that's basically when Jabba died, and the same time that's when Boba went into the Sarlacc pit. So it's kind of like catching him up on what's going on. I mean, he didn't really mention the whole Empire and what have you, but he was just mainly talking about the power vacuum that was created after what he called the
after the sail barge disaster.
I thought that was kind of funny. And then he didn't want to name Jabba because he thought that would offend Boba. And why would I be offended? I mean, I thought the exchange was kind of funny, but I did like how they showed, like, you know, when Bib Fortuna took over, he had to divvy up the city and give people like certain sections and what have you, so they would like not like try to do what Boba did and just shoot it, right? So I thought that was kind of cool. And then he basically told Boba that, you know, the people in the town, they don't know if they can trust you. They don't know what kind of a leader you're going to be. So they're kind of like waiting to see what you're going to do. And then we get a cameo. To be quite honest with you, when this guy came in, I did not know who he was. I'm looking at him going, why does that dude look familiar? I didn't really put two to two together until I saw somebody else's review video later on after I watched this episode. And I'm going, oh, it's that guy, right? And then my oldest daughter like texted me, say, hey, Milton from The Office Space was in there. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then when I watched this episode again, I'm going, oh yeah, now I see it. I mean, that guy is like totally typecast from that movie. I feel so bad for him. I mean, like the movie came out like 23 years ago. I mean, I love Office Space, but I'm sure this dude's like done other stuff since then to be known for something else. I guess it is what it is. Now, he's come to Boba for help. Now, before he actually gets to the part to what he needs help with, he basically tells Boba that,
well, with apologies, sir, no one respects you.
You know, after that assassination attempt, they don't think you're going to be around that long anyway. So, but if you help me out with this biker gang,
they are half man, half machine.
If you do that, I'll give you twice the tribute. And, you know, obviously brag about him with everybody else in town, right? So Boba's like, okay. Now, when he goes and meets this biker gang, I got to say that this is like one of the things in the episode that I'm not all that crazy about. I mean, there were certain elements that was kind of cool, I guess, but I don't know, man. Now, this is where we meet the one chick that was on the speeder bike in the trailer. Now they come to find out she has like a droid arm, and one guy's got like a droid eyeball. But what really got to me is like, you know, they're stealing water because they can't afford to pay for it. But if you look at their equipment and the stuff that, you know, their augmented droid parts, you're spending all your money on that. How are you getting the money for that stuff, but you don't have money for water? Are you kidding me? I mean, and then like the speeder bikes pretty much look like they were Vespas. I mean, really, they didn't look like they belonged on Tatooine, right? I mean, especially if you can't afford it. If you can't afford water, how in the hell will you afford to get those speeder bikes? And they looked, I mean, I heard somebody earlier on today refer to these guys as the Power Rangers. Now, I never watched that show, so I can't really relate to that. But I got more of like a Spy Kids feel, and seeing how that Rodriguez was directing this episode, that's probably where it came from. They were like my least favorite part of this episode. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're going to get kind of cool. I mean, there were a couple moments I thought these guys were kind of cool, but maybe once we get to know more, they'll get cooler, right? we'll just have to wait and see. Now, after we recruit the Vespa gang, we're back at Boba's palace, and he's in the banta tank. Now, every time he goes in the tank, we do a flashback. Now, I'm like torn on this flashback. I kind of liked it, and at the same time, I didn't. I'm kind of glad they didn't actually show it. You know what I'm saying? Now, when he first goes back in the flashback, and he's got his uniform that we see him in Mandalorian Season 2, he's off to go talk to the Pikes, I guess, to say, hey, we're going to charge you for protection to go through our territory. And the Pike tells him, we already paid the biker gang for the protection. We don't mind paying protection because that's how it works out here. But we're not paying you both. So he goes, if you take care of the biker gang, then we'll talk. But up until then, we're not paying you both. So Boba goes back to let everybody else know at the village what they have to do. And when he gets back there, the biker gang has already showed up, took them all out. Now, this was actually kind of depressing. Even like at one point, Tamara Morrison is actually crying as he's like, doing the funeral pyre and everything. And then he pulls out that little stick that was that Tusken kid's, and he threw it down there. I didn't see the Tusken kid laying dead on the ground. I'm kind of glad I didn't see that, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I saw the chief, but I didn't see the warrior, and apparently that was a female stunt double playing that part. So evidently that character was supposed to be a female, but we never knew their names, and I guess now it doesn't really matter because they're all gone. I thought that was kind of messed up. I mean, again, that was kind of like my least favorite part of this episode, but there was certain elements that I liked because I liked the way how they tied the whole Pike thing in the flashback, and then we had to deal with them again in the present day portion of this episode. I thought that was kind of cool how they tied it in, but I was really bummed to see that all them Tuskens got taken out. Now, Boba's banta tank session was rudely interrupted by Chrysanthemum. Now, I thought this was pretty damn cool. He just flipped open that door and just yanked him right out of there. This fight scene was awesome. Now, I heard somebody say earlier on today that how in the hell did they miss a Wookiee? How did the Gamorreans miss him? How did the Power Rangers miss him coming in? Now, Wookiee is supposed to be a bounty hunter. And if anybody familiar with the old EU, we all know that the Wookiees are like good hunters and what have you. So they had to be in order to live on Kashyyyk. So him being able to sneak into this palace did not shock me. Because one, he's a bounty hunter. Two, he's a Wookiee. They're supposed to be very fierce hunters. So it made total sense to me that he was actually able to get past the guards. Now, I thought this fight scene between Boba and Chrysanthemum was pretty damn cool. That at one point, Boba tried to get a hold of his armor, and he just couldn't do it. He ended up using his gaffy stick. Then shortly after that, everybody pretty much joined in. We had the Power Rangers come in, then the Gamorreans came in, and when he saw the Gamorreans, he pretty much bum rushed him and went down the stairs. And then they were fighting in the throne room, and the next thing you know, Fennec Shand shows up, hits the trapdoor button, and he's down in the Rancor pit, and that's the end of that fight. Now, as Boba and Fennec are talking about how they're going to respond to the Hutts setting in an assassin, lo and behold, the Hutts show up at the front door. Now, I thought this was pretty damn interesting. They showed up and they brought a gift. They said that, the planet was already promised to another syndicate, so they're leaving. They're going back to Hutta. And we don't want to war with you, but take this Rancor as a gift. Now they have Danny Trejo coming in to be the trainer for the Rancor. I thought this was a perfect casting. I was not really all that shocked to see this guy in this series, especially knowing that Rodriguez was going to direct 1 or 2 episodes, and this being one of his 2 episodes. Wasn't shocked to see this guy come in. And I thought this was a perfect casting for him. You don't get this guy and put heavy makeup on him. You know what I'm saying? You actually want to know who he is. And I actually thought this was pretty cool because when Boba goes to visit the Rancor down in the pit, and we get all this lore about
Rancor are emotionally complex creatures. They're quite peaceful and less threatened.
Basically kind of sound like they were like a dog, right? Like a really big dog. That's pretty much the way he was describing it. It's pretty much what I got out of it. But it was kind of cool. And then Boba says he wants to ride it. And they mentioned the witches of Dathomir.
Said that the witches of Dathomir even rode them through the forest and fen.
Now this is kind of a reference to the courtship of Princess Leia, an old EU Star Wars aka Legends novel written by David Wolverton. Now, it was published on April 1st of 1994 on Bantic Spectra. Now, this novel takes place 8 ABY. That's after the Battle of Yavin, 4 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. Now, in this novel, Darth Vader and the Emperor are dead, but the Empire lives on, and the Alliance must continue the struggle with dwindling supplies of cash and resources. Princess Leia is seeking rich and powerful allies, to bring into the Alliance and a new planet as a home for the influential refugees of Alderaan, considers a proposal that could tip the balance of power against the evil Empire. The HAPS Consortium, a cluster of 63 high-tech worlds, is ruled by the Queen Mother, who wants Leia to marry her son, the dashing, wealthy Prince Isidore. When Leia nearly accepts this startling proposal, Han is driven into a frenzy of fear and jealousy. Guided by his desperation, Han wanders into a dive of a cantina in the lower reaches of Coruscant, where he participates in a high-stakes sawback game. During the game, one of Han's opponents runs out of liquid financial instruments, instead offers real estate in the form of a deed of an entire inhabitable planet, Dathomir. Now, this planet is full of rancors, and this is technically the first time we're introduced to the witches of Dathomir and the Night Sisters before we meet them in the Clone Wars. Now, if you have not read this book, I highly recommend picking it up. I mean, there's a lot in this book. I mean, I can talk about this book all day. It's probably one of my favorite of the old EU, to be quite honest with you. Unfortunately, it was just announced that David Wolverton, the author of this book, has passed away on January 14th of 2022 at the age of 65. I mean, this is a major bummer. He wrote this book and a few other of the Jedi Apprentice books that I really, really like. So, I mean, this is a really bummer, man. 88 tells Boba he's going to have to wait another 20 days before he can talk to the mayor. And Boba says, that's not happening. Even when he went to the mayor's office, he still put up with a bunch of BS that I don't think that a crime lord would, right? If you want to be a crime lord, I know he's trying to, he's going to rule with respect and not with fear, but at the same time, I mean, he put up with a lot of BS. And then when, the Twilight guy pretty much, pulls a fast one on him, goes through the door and locks the door. He's like, did he lock the door? And they break in. He got away. And then he tries to take off in his speeder. And then he sends the Power Ranger kids after him. Now, this was kind of cool, but it was kind of cheesy at the same time, to be quite honest with you. The painting they drive through is actually a Ralph McQuarrie art for Jabba's palace from Return of the Jedi. And then when he finally comes to a screeching end and he crashes into this cart full of fruit. Now, I thought this was a cool Easter egg down there. It's Maylurons from Star Wars Rebels.
One fresh Maylurun as ordered.
I heard somebody earlier on say that maybe it would have been funnier, seeing how it was kind of like a Back to the Future type chase that he would have got in the bantha manure or something like that. I mean, I guess I can see that, but I thought it was a lot cooler that they brought in the fruit from Star Wars Rebels, seeing this is one of Filoni's projects, right? Now, after the Twilight crashes into the fruit cart, we find out that the mayor is working with the Pikes. Now, this is where the flashback and the present day story kind of intertwine. Apparently, as at least for the next episode or so, the Pikes are going to be our villains in this series, right? Because I still think there's going to be more to it. I think Chrysanthemum's going to come back, even though Boba did let him go. I think he's going to come back. I think he's going to feel that he owes Boba some kind of life debt, right? Because he didn't kill him and he didn't make him become a slave. So I think he's going to come back saying he owes Boba something. And I don't think we're done with the twins yet. Even though they said they were going back to their home planet, I think that they're going to be more involved in the rest of this series. I'm not really sure exactly how. I'm wildly speculating as far as that goes, but I think they're actually not done with this story just quite yet. Also, before I forget, there was a cameo from a Mandalorian character. Peli Motto was at the very beginning of the flashback scene when Boba went to Mos Eisley and they're freshly putting the stormtrooper helmets on the Pikes. I thought that was cool that they put that in there. And then I'll admit, I missed her the first time I saw this episode, and I listened to somebody else's review video and they say, hey, she was in it. And when I went and watched this thing a second time and go, yeah, there she is. I mean, she didn't say anything. It was just her and her droids just walking by, but I thought that was a cool way how to tie this into the Mandoverse. I thought that was pretty cool. She didn't have to say anything, which I know most people don't like that character anyhow, but I thought it was pretty cool to see her in this thing. So did you watch the third chapter of the Book of Boba Fett? Let me know in the comments down below. Where does this one rank with you with the other two we've gotten so far? Let me know in the comments down below. I mean, this was definitely not my favorite. I'm kind of disappointed. I mean, Rodriguez had such a kick-ass episode in Mandalorian Season 2. I thought for sure he'd bring it onto this one too. I don't know, man. I'm just not feeling it. So maybe it'll get better. I'm hoping it gets better. You know what I mean? Let me know what you think in the comments down below.